All right, thank you so much for joining us, and we're gonna get started. So the interest rates are coming down, right? So the good news is that as of last week, the interest rate has started coming down because of some positive news that we are hearing from the Fed. So the interest rates are hovering around 6.78% for your 30-year conventional loans. And according to Mortgage News Daily, they came down to 6.80 as of this morning. Okay, your FHA loans are hovering around 6.40. So there's about 40 basis points difference. So there are pros and cons. So maybe your client wants to go with FHA, perfectly fine. Mr. Aslam, yesterday when you sent me the message, I hear that a lot from a lot of different people, a lot of different agents. Hey, the clients are simply not ready because the interest rates are on the higher end. But if your client has enough savings, this might be a good time to check out the market because they're decreasing right now, right? Some people will be waiting until 6%, maybe 5%. And we know those numbers are not realistic right now, so we may have to simply wait on that, right? But it's still definitely in the right direction where us as real estate agents and as loan officers, that's what we want, okay? So what happens to the buying power? Your buying power is increasing, or your client's buying power is increasing. How much exactly? Just by giving you this scenario here, if someone were to get 7.55 versus 6.80, there's around $36,000 difference in buying power. You guys, your clients, if they had a pre-approval a few months ago compared to now, they should be able to afford a little bit more. Okay, and the main point here is that the monthly payment does not change. It's still $32.59, but the buying power increased the loan amount from $464 to $500,000. Okay, and how about the inventory? We're looking at your national single family inventory, and you can see that the blue line here, this is your 2022. And after COVID, we saw the inventory was limited. In 2023, it even around the same time today, it decreased. But the good news here is that in 2024 right now, it finally increased to 677,000. So overall, inventory is increasing, and that's what we want to see as real estate agents because that's what we have to sell. Okay, and if your client is asking you, hey, my loan officer is telling me, I should buy down the rate, or one of the banks is telling me that I can get a rate of 6.87 versus another loan officer is telling me, hey, I can offer you 7.37. Who wouldn't want to go with 6.87? Everybody, because it makes sense to buy down the rate. But there's an actual calculation that you guys need to understand and ask the right question to see if it actually makes sense to buy down the rate or not, right? So this example here, first you see the rate, which is in red circle here, 7.375, okay? The lender, when you see negative 264, the lender will give them credit of $624 at the closing, and their principal and interest payment is going to be $34.53. So based on their credit scores, based on their down payment, type of property they're buying, the bank says, hey, we can offer you today 7.37. Do you want to take it? The next question might be, hey, can you do a little bit better? Can you do it a little bit better? Of course you can. You would have to pay points, meaning you have to buy down the rate. Okay? And if they're giving you an offer of this slide here of 6.875%, but it's going to cost you 0.89%. Doesn't seem a lot, but in calculation, it's going to be around $4,400 or close to $4,500. Okay? And your monthly payment is going to change. Obviously, it's going to go down. It's going to go down to $32.85. Initially, when they gave you, it was going to be $34.53. Now, because you're buying down, you're paying $4,400. Now your monthly payment is going to be $32.85. So should you buy down? You have to do the calculation. You have to ask simple question. How long will it take me to get my money back, the $4,400 I'm giving you today, and when I'm going to start benefiting from this buy down, right? So let's do the calculation. At 7.37, the monthly payment was 34.53. At 6.87, the monthly payment is 32.85. So in monthly saving, you have $168 per month. So that seems great, right? You already paid close to $4,500. So how long will it take you to get that money back? So you're going to take the cost of $4,400 divided by your savings of $168 per month, and you will get 26 months, which is 2 years, right? So buying down the rate from one percentage to another and saving $168 per month, but initial cost is around $4,500, and it's going to take you 2 years to get that money back. So the follow-up question should be, hey, are you planning to refinance within 2 years? If the interest rates are going to come down, most likely they should come down, and you want to change it, refinance your loan, then it's pointless to pay this mortgage, right? Or pay these points. Why would you want to pay $4,500 upfront, save $168, and maybe after 1 year you're going to refinance, right? Because the interest rates should come down. Then you just wasted this money. On the other hand, if you plan not to touch this loan at all, and after 2 years, you start going to benefiting. Every month, you're going to be saving $168 after that. If it's a 30-year loan, the first 2 years, you're paying this, after that, you're going to be benefiting for 28 years. That makes sense. But majority of the people who are buying in today's market, right, or have bought in the last 6 months or even a year, they're waiting for the interest rates to come down below 6.25. If the saving is there for your client, they are going to go ahead and refinance. Okay? So the simple thing is like, hey, if your loan officer is telling you, hey, today we can offer you 7.37, but I would need you to go with, even if you want to buy it down, we can offer you 6.87. Seems appealing, but it's going to cost you $4,500. Your savings is going to be $168 every month. It's going to take you 26 months or 2 years to get that money back. Are you going to refinance within those 2 years? Simply put, this can be for yourself. This can be for your clients. So if you ask them, you're not a loan officer, right? You're a real estate agent, but you can have this conversation, because this is simple math. It's like, hey, does it make sense for you to buy it down if someone is offering you? Sometimes we do get ridiculous offers or inquiries. It's like, hey, one of the bank is offering me 4.99. And we say, how is that even possible? Right? Show us your loan estimate. Let's see what does the loan estimate say there. Okay? It has to make sense. It has to be beneficial for you to put down extra money today, right? And start benefiting from those buy downs. Okay. All right, guys. Next, we have a couple of news headlines here. Mortgage rates stay put ahead of Fed meeting, right? When is the Fed meeting? It's happening today. Okay. So pay attention to today's market. Pay attention to today's news. It's live on YouTube as well. You just put in Fed meeting, and you will learn at least a thing or two from that, right? Let's see if we are actually surprised. We're not expecting the Fed to cut the rates today. If they do, even if it's 25 basis points, it'll be such a positive news for today. But most likely, they're not going to be doing anything today. But in the next meeting in September, there's a high percentage chance that they will do a rate cut. Okay. Also, when it comes to rate cuts, job openings matter. So your job openings slightly fell. So there's less job opening in the labor market, and that will affect your credit scores down the line, or your mortgage rates down the line. Okay. Inflation is at 3%. This is a good sign. Unemployment is at 4.1%, If it goes a little bit higher unemployment, we're going to see the rate cut sooner than later. Okay. Another one is that housing demand stalled as your buyers wait. This is what Aslam and I were talking about yesterday. There are some buyers who simply waiting. You as a real estate agent, your time is very valuable as well. You have things going on, right? So you want to work with the clients who are ready, willing, and able to purchase a property. If your client is saying, hey, I'm not ready today, great. That's perfectly fine, man. I can't force you to buy a property. I'm gonna still stick with you, right? I'm gonna send you properties on KV Core. It doesn't, take a lot of time, but I'm not gonna be spending a lot of time showing and anything because you're not ready. But on the other hand, you need to focus on the people, ask the people who are ready to buy a property today. Okay, inventory, as we saw, that it is increasing, and that's a good sign. If there's more inventory, we have more property to sell. I don't care if the prices come down or not, but with more demand, it's unlikely that it's going to come down. Okay, so the home prices overall are staying steady. We have seen it. We were under contract for one of our deals here, and our agent was literally panicking. He's like, hey, let me do the comps for the appraisal and see if I need to worry about something. I looked at the numbers and said, I don't think you need to worry about anything. And now the appraisal came in and is $20,000 over asking or the contract price. So that means your client is getting a good deal, and you don't have to worry about much. Pending sales just in general are on the slow end. So deals going under contract, there was deals that actually fell through last month as well. There's not much we can do on those. Our job as real estate agent, hey, you are ready to see a property, let me show you properties many as possible, as long as you are ready. Okay. Year to date, prices also have appreciated. So prices have gone up, right? And not dramatically, but have gone up from previous year. Next, guys, I want to give you an example here. This is when even you're making over $200,000 a year. Doesn't mean that you can keep buying properties. Every property you're buying, there's more liabilities against you as well. You have to pay off the mortgage, right? So this client here, initially, $227,000 income, that seems great. You're making over $200,000. You have $200,000 sitting for your down payment, great. Hey, it seems like you're really solid. I'm assuming you don't have any monthly debt. I'm just putting 250, right, on the lower end. 7.49, the property taxes and your property insurance, great. You qualify for $1.3 million property, right? Then we run a credit report and find out that his monthly debt is $7,800 because he owns 2 properties already, and this is the 3rd property he wants to buy. So if that's the case, now you still have the same income, same down payment, but your monthly debt have increased because you already have 2 mortgages. So if your client is telling you, hey, I already own 1 property, can I buy another one? Yes, of course, as long as you can afford it, right? So now this client cannot purchase a property unless we can count the rental income. He can take care of his credit card debt that he had and reduce his $7,800 to lower, so he can find another single family that he wants to purchase for investment. Or he can go a non-QM route, right? Meaning there are non-QM loans where we're not checking the income itself, but we can do DSCR loans, meaning that person doesn't have to live in that property, and we can just see what income that property is producing, and you see how much he can qualify for that. He already has solid down payment. He already has good credit scores. So there's going to be different routes for those clients when they tell you, hey, I want to buy my 2nd, 3rd, or 4th property. We have some clients who are buying their 6th or 7th properties. There are more guidelines, more restrictions for them. Why? Because they're more riskier, right? Whatever income they have right now, and they might be buying multiple properties, can they really afford to pay 30-year mortgages for all 6 of them for next 30 years? Maybe, maybe not. There's just more riskier for them. Okay, it's definitely possible. All right, guys. When a client asks you, hey, how's the market? We're giving you different scenarios from different areas all the time. So few agents ask for this, so I'm going to send you this, that in Elmont, it is definitely a strong seller's market. The inventory is really limited. The taxes are low in Elmont. So if someone finds a nice 40, 50, 60 by 100 lot size and is a beat up property, they're going for it. They say, fine, we're going to renovate this property and bring the value up. So you see a strong seller's market in Elmont. How about in Queens here, Kew Gardens is slightly a buyer's advantage, meaning there's enough inventory, there's not enough, well, the sellers are not in the advantage here. The buyers are. Okay. How about Whitestone? Whitestone has a slight advantage for the sellers. But if there's some agents who say, hey, I want to start focusing on high-end markets, Whitestone is one of them. You can see that the median list price is $1.5 million there. And if it's a new property that's newly constructed, there's listed for $2.2 million. Some of us, when we look at South Dawson Park and we say, hey, the property value should be around $1.3, $1.4 million, that listing agent is not only seeing this property in this area, they're trying to compare with Whitestone and other areas. Like, hey, maybe those clients are coming to this area and let's bring the prices up. Okay? Because the same specs for a single family or two family, when you're comparing it from when it's a brand new construction from South Dawson Park to Whitestone, when it comes to construction, the material that they're using is not big difference. But just in Whitestone, price per square foot is a lot higher. You can see it's around $800. Okay? If you want to focus on those markets, let's say you have a Zillow budget and you, as Sheetal, we mentioned, right? We have 11420. This our zip code is one of the worst zip codes you can choose for Zillow. The reason being is that short sale properties, they really kill your budget. Every month they do this, right? There's literally one or two property that will be keep sending you different, different clients for the same property. And it seems so good, like, hey, this property is worth only $250,000. We know it's not realistic. So change your zip code, and maybe you want to look into Whitestone. Maybe the Whitestone's, is going to be a little bit more costly for you, but at the same time, any lead that you get from there, guess what? It's going to be on the higher end, which means that hopefully you will get more commission. Okay. And then focus on your client, guys. This is what we're going to determine, like, hey, if your client is going to be sticking with you or not. You need to understand what they really have in their mind. What do they prioritize, right? Is it the size of the house? Is it how many bedrooms that they need, right? How many bathrooms? When we say bedrooms, we cannot compromise. If you can get them extra, they'll be very happy. Meaning they're looking for 2 bedrooms and you find them 3, or they're looking for 3 and you find them 4, they'll be very happy. But if you show them, 2 bedrooms and they're looking for 3, they're gonna say, hey, what are you talking about? We need 3 bedrooms. But when it comes to bathrooms, if they're asking for 2, you can look for property 1.5. Okay? Because if everything else checks off, and they like the property, hopefully they can increase or upgrade one of the bathrooms to a full one. Okay? Do they need storage? Right? You need to ask them, hey, do you need an attic? Do you need a basement? Do you need, there are some properties in Long Island without any basement. So figure that out and do not waste your time on showing properties that they're not interested in. Okay? Do they need a yard? Right? Sometimes some of these, elderly couple, they don't want anything big. They want small as possible. On the other hand, if it's a small family, just they're trying to grow their family, young couple, they would definitely want a yard, right? If it's in a flood zone or not, we need to figure that out. They would need a flood insurance for that, and there's more riskier because they're in the flood zone, right? How's their commute from work to their house? Right? Is it, public transportation available? Is it nearby? Right? All the amenities that's going to be for that property, you need to figure those out. Schooling is super important for parents who are trying to have their, kids go to school. I've seen people going 15, 20 miles one way or another because of good schools. So you need to figure that out and ask them these questions. Overall, just make sure that when you're locating a house for them, affordability matters, quality of neighborhood matters, and convenience to friends and family matters. So when you're having a conversation with them, be like, hey, I understand that these are the needs that you may have, and I'm going to try to fulfill them for you. Okay. So your client is what you want to hear from your client. It's like, hey, you have shown them enough properties. How much do you think we should put in the offer for? Right? The property might be listed for 500,000, 700,000, $1 million. Doesn't matter. You're going to tell them listing price doesn't mean anything. It's just a starting point. Let me do the comps already. If you're one of those agents, experienced agents, you already did the comps, right? And you know that this is going to be a solid property. I'm taking geodata report, right? The snapshots. I'm taking RPR. I'm taking a look at a few properties that have been sold in that area. I'm going there prepared when I'm showing them. It's like, hey, right after that, when they're done, I want to make sure that we can put in an offer for them. Okay. So when we say this every time, now more importantly now is going to be buyer's presentation, right? What value are you bringing to the client? The value is your buyer's presentation. How well do you speak to them? How, do they really understand all the concept of it, right? If it's a first time home buyer, you should be able to take them from the stage one until the last stage for the closing, so they have a full overview. It's like, hey, this is what it really takes to buy a house. But you have to tell them what you are bringing to the table for them. So buyer presentation is in your Realtor Tools page, is the first one there. Initially, we said that we will be doing one for each agent. We have over 70 agents, and it seems like it's an impossible task. So if you guys individually wants to do upgrades or make any changes, we will give you the original file. You guys can make a copy of it and add or remove anything you want. But as a company, we're going to be upgrading these presentation, but it'll be just in one format, right? It will not have any agent's photo or anything like that. It will be just the company logos, but you can add it on your own, anything you want. Okay, so buyer presentation. And again, when should you do this? Before showing them anything, because after August 8th, you would have to have agreement signed before you showing them. And nobody's going to sign any documents with you unless you tell them what you're really about. Okay. So next, guys, we're going to spend some next 20 minutes on new forms that you have to worry about. There are clients who you are already working with, and you still will need to get new forms signed if you are not under contract yet. That is a simple step. If you're already under contract and you have signed old forms, no problem. But if you're not under contract yet, you're still showing all these new forms that we're about to go over, you will need to worry about them. Okay. So first I'm going to ljagent.com. We added a new tab for you guys, forms. It's definitely still part of your Realtor Tools, but because we want to give you guys easy access, so you just click on forms here. No changes to your agency disclosure. But the only thing I want to mention is that, guys, if there's two agents from LJ Realty team, one representing the buyer, one representing the seller, it is still a dual agency, because you guys still working for the same company. So if that's the case, you already have them, agency disclosure signed, one for the buyer, one for the seller. You still need a second one as a dual agency. Okay. So for that, on the second page here, you're going to click on dual agent with sales agent's name. You can read this through and say, hey, who's representing the buyer, who's representing the seller, and have both parties sign. Okay, it is super important that we want to make sure that we're disclosing every time there's a dual agency. Anti-discrimination form, guys, it is required by law, so we want to make sure that you have this signed same time as you're having your agency disclosure signed. No changes there, right? Now here's the changes, okay? First one is your exclusive right to sell agreement. This one has the biggest changes. So before that, we were just having, remember, just one long page, a blue color page. They're getting rid of that. So MLS will no longer show you guys that. Our transaction desk will be updated. So anytime you have a listing, you're representing a seller, you will need to go with this disclosure. By law, it's not required that we use LIBOR's forms, but I feel like because they're in compliance, we would want to use them. Okay. So the first thing is that, very simply, who the owner is, where are they located, where the property is located, and your name is giving you the right. You're the listing broker. Even though you guys are a salesperson, you're still considered a listing broker. So don't get confused with that term. Okay. And then you have the right to sell this property for. You have to agree, hey, what is going to be the listing price? So you put the listing price, and how long is this listing for? What's the listing period? Is it 3 months, 6 months, a year? You put those dates, the start date until the end date. Okay? No changes there, what we saw before. Okay? Then sometimes you get everything signed, but you're not going to put it, you're going to take photos and everything. You're not going to actually put it on MLS maybe next 3 or 4 days. Put in the date that you're going to put in on the market. And now this is where it comes to the commission. This is the biggest changes, right? This is what we're going to be talking about majority of the time here. So your listing broker fee. So the first, it says the owner understands and acknowledges that the broker's compensation is not set by law, right? Or by any realtor association or one key MLS. So it's not set by anyone. So it is fully negotiable between the owner and the listing broker. So Mr. Ali can go in there and maybe negotiate 3%. Maybe Sheetal can go in there and say, hey, I'm going to only charge you 2%. And maybe Sclaren can go in there like, guess what? I just want to charge you 1%. Everything is negotiable. It's not set in stone. Okay. So listing broker fee, the owner hereby agrees to pay listing broker a total fee in the amount of percentage, right? Whatever percentage you guys agree on of the selling price. Or if you want to put an amount, rare cases, I would just go with the percentage. And your owner will initial and initial here too. Now, here is the buyer side. It says the request by buyers for payment of buyer's broker fees. How about if the buyers, right, or the buyer's agent is requesting a fee? Then what? Then the listing broker has explained and advised the owner that the owner is not required to offer any commission to the buyer's agent. They're not required. If they want to, they can, but they don't, or they're not required. Okay? How about the listing agent is hosting an open house, right? So Sheetal, you're hosting an open house. A buyer comes in and the buyer says, hey, I don't want to pay any agent, any fees. I'm not represented by anyone. Could you represent me? That yes, he can represent you, but he's already representing the buyer, or he's already representing the seller. And if he wants to represent you in this agreement, the seller is already agreeing or disagreeing to pay that person anything. If the listing broker, the listing agent, produces a buyer that's willing, that's ready, willing, and able to purchase a property and is not represented by any other broker, how much fee will the seller pay to the listing agent? This is where the part, it gets interesting. The top part, it tells you, hey, this is what you're going to get paid for being a listing agent. Number 3 is telling you if you were to bring in a buyer, it could be at the open house or it could be for one of your own leads or from your database, right? Is your owner willing to pay anything? Okay. If the owner is not willing to pay anything, if the buyer are willing to pay you, that still must be disclosed to the seller. Hey, Mr. Seller, this buyer here is coming. He's going to be paying. I'm going to be representing them as well. And he's going to pay me 1%, 2%, whatever we negotiated. And I need to disclose that to you. Okay. Then you have your broker fee earned obligations, basically, right? You guys can go through these. Next question that we're getting a lot is like, hey, my buyer is not able to pay me anything and they might need a seller's concession. So a seller's concession is allowed as long as if the seller is willing to give that, right? So a seller's concession, it's when the seller is giving money back at the closing table to the buyer. So when would a seller want to do this? If the property is not selling, right? If the seller already has offers without any concessions, he's not going to worry about concessions. He's not going to worry about appraisal or anything like that. He simply wants to sell the house without any headaches. Okay? So if the buyer needs those funds, the listing agent needs to clarify that in this agreement. So owner does or does not elect to authorize listing agent to advertise that the owner is offering seller's concession at the closing or not. Our MLS now, when we were putting in the listing, it will ask you, hey, does the seller wants to give any concession, yes or no? In California, they put an amount there. They took that field out right after they put it, after about a week. So I don't think New York is going to do that. New York is simply going to say, hey, the seller is actually giving a concession or not giving a concession. Okay? If he is, then the seller, the listing agent can negotiate that. Okay? So this is the whole amount, whatever amount he might say, 10,000, 20,000, whatever it is. If he does agree, you can put on the amount what he's willing to go up to. Okay? Then again, we just spoke about potential dual agency. As long as you have a dual agency, it is completely legal in New York to have a dual agency with proper disclosures. As we mentioned, the seller needs to know, hey, we got this buyer and the buyer is being represented by me directly or one of my agents that's in the same company that I work with. Okay? You need to disclose that. So if you already have an agency disclosure signed, you need to get another one signed as a dual agent. Okay? For marketing, so the owner grants. Yes.
Paji, I have a question
Yes.
before you go
Sure. Sure.
forward. If it's a cash deal and we asking to the buyer like 4% we're gonna charge you and this is the price. If buyers agree, it's okay, right? Because seller is not giving anything because the cash deal. So how it's work?
Sure. So basically, seller is saying, I'm not paying anything, right? He's
Yep.
not paying you anything, so that's no problem. You just need to disclose to the seller that, hey, I am getting paid from the buyer and it is 4%. As long as he knows, there's no issues.
Oh, okay. But we have to inform the seller
Yeah, we
we're
have to
getting
inform the
4%
seller.
from the buyer.
Exactly.
And charging the buyer is illegal. It's not like we should not, because normally the seller pay the commissions to the agents and we split. But here, the cash deal is a different way of doing the deals, and we told in the front to the buyer, and he need to sign the paper like
Correct.
4% of the price he's gonna pay. Okay,
Correct.
just want
Yeah.
to make sure.
100%. So with paperwork, buyers can definitely pay you guys, no problem, with documents. And we just need to tell the seller, hey, it is a cash deal. You're not paying me anything, but because of this deal, I am making 4% from the buyer, and I just need to disclose that to you.
And
Okay.
also, Paji, I mean, mostly two, three agent involved this type of deal, and that 4% look like a lot of money for one agent. It's not for one agent. It's gonna split at least two and plus agents.
Yeah,
So,
you
you
can.
know,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Nobody's gonna be judging. There's people who are making, a lot of money. It could be short sale, foreclosures. It could be, high end luxury item. Nobody's saying that you guys should not be making X amount of percentages, right? There's no doubt. The problem is just with disclosing it. It's like, hey, we have seen it in the past with this listing agent saying, hey, I want to make money from the listing side and from the buyer side, but I don't want the buyer to tell the listing side anything. The government doesn't want that. The government say, hey, it's fine to make the money, but everybody needs to be disclosed who's making money from what, right? Especially sellers and the buyers.
100%.
Hmm.
I had a buyer who said I never paid in a cash deal to the agent.
Hmm.
Then I told them the reason you never paid because the company add their money in the price, and
Hmm.
our price is much different than you can compare. So
Yeah.
the deals can be, you can make the deal like that, but we offer whatever the price is. We're not adding up like
Correct.
$50,000 in the price and say, hey, this is the deal. That's not the
Exactly.
deal. So we told them, like, if you feel this not deal, don't take it.
Yeah, and it has the numbers have to make sense, right? It's like, hey, you're finding me a property, and let's say it's $450,000. You're charging me 4%. Okay, I'll pay you that. Where's my other closing cost? I'm going to renovate it, and then I have to sell this property. If all the numbers make sense, and maybe the property value after repairs and everything is over 650, everything makes sense. He has no problem. But if he is going to be worrying about his end game, right, his net numbers, then obviously it's going to be a no deal. So you can charge them X amount of money as long as it makes sense to them,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
Yep,
Thank you.
yep. You're welcome. Yep. So next, guys, is that marketing, right? So marketing is that you have to tell the owner, like, hey, do you, because there are some owners that don't want to tell anyone that they're selling this property. Even putting up a for sale sign. So you need to get this authorization. This was part of the old agreement as well. We need to ask the owner, hey, do you authorize us or not authorize us to place a for sale sign? Right? The first approach should be when they say, no, I don't want it, tell them, hey, if you're going to be out of here after the next 30 or 60 days, why does it matter that we're putting up a for sale sign? The benefits of putting a for sale sign is that not everybody's tech savvy. They don't know that this property is on the market. Maybe they're just driving by this area and then they see this for sale sign, right? We have potential of getting more offers because of this for sale sign. So I highly recommend that you allow me. They said, no, I just don't want you to put it. Then you obviously don't want to put it. Okay. If the property is vacant, then you want to ask them, hey, do you authorize us to put a lockbox there? Right? Do you give us the permission to share the keys or not? Very simple, straightforward. Number 10, you have your rental of the property. Rare cases, they might say, hey, you probably, if we can't sell the property, maybe you want to rent it out, what would be your fee there? Okay. Number 11 was pretty interesting, and I'm glad that they put this in there because of being high tech now, right? How many people have Ring cameras or doorbell or Nest, right? Different companies out there have different audio or video recording going on in the property. So first is that use of audio recording. It says the owner is advised that it is a violation of New York State law to hear or overhear a conversation by any device, right? So this could be at the open house or at the showings, right? You're showing them and you're thinking like, hey, Shito, what do you think of this property? And you say, hey, yeah, let's put in an offer for $560,000. And they're hearing all this. You don't want that. So now when you are a listing agent, you have to disclose, hey, if this property have or does or does not have any device, that way they can hear those conversations. It could be just audio only or it could be video and audio. Okay? To learn from this is like, guys, when you're doing a showing, the best thing to do is after the showing, tell your clients, hey, let's leave from this place, let's go to my car or nearby and have a conversation there. Do not do a conversation at the house or at the property itself. Okay? So next, guys, these are very straightforward. They're coming from from old agreement. So I'm not gonna go over this with you today. And then you're gonna have your owner sign, okay? And you're gonna have you yourself signing as well, okay? And you're gonna be dating it. So before it was just 2 pages, now we have 6 pages. So this is exclusive right to sell agreement. What are the biggest changes that you see there? Before we saw that, hey, you're gonna be getting paid 4%, 2% going to you, 2% going to the broker's agent, buyer's agent. All that nonsense is gone. Hey, I'm gonna be worrying about myself. If I'm the listing agent, I need to get paid. We don't have to pay anybody outside from that. If you want to now, if you want to sell quickly, you want to offer them concession, go ahead. Let's offer that. Questions, guys? Okay, we have a lot to cover. So next week we're going to be going through the same thing again. So in more detail. So hopefully you guys have more questions. So we have exclusive right to sell. We already know your property condition disclosure. So you're the listing agent. You're going to tell your seller, hey, we need this filled out before we go under contract. You don't have to fill this out today. You hold on to this, right? We're just listing it today. But before we go under contract, your attorney is going to ask you, hey, do you have your property condition disclosure statement? And you're going to fill that out, Mr. Owner, for your best ability possible, right? Tell us we don't know how long you own this property, how you think this, how would you, disclose this property's condition. Okay. So for the buyers now, you have your exclusive right to represent. Okay. So this agreement is 4 pages. And this is an agreement where you're working with your buyers, and the buyers cannot sign with multiple agents. If he signed this agreement with you for next 30 days, you're his agent. Okay? If he or she goes to the open house and puts in an offer and buys a property, you can take legal action with this. You can. Okay? So this is just like the listing agent. So if the listing agent put a property on the market and now another agent started to do the same thing, that's a violation. So when we're talking about, hey, my client is running away, working with 3 different agents, they're not loyal, all that is going to be changed. It's not going to be happening overnight. It might take maybe 6 months or a year for everybody to be on board. But overall, the market is going to be going in a direction where your agent, as a buyer's agent, you're going to have more responsibility, and you're going to have more responsibility of showing them properties, working with them. Otherwise, they would want to terminate this agreement before they sign with someone else. Okay? So what do you have first? So you have, this is the exclusive agreement, right? That is going to be working with me and me only. So what is your broker's responsibility? Is to be, brokers will exercise good faith effort to locate a property for them. Your main job is to find them a property. If you get this signed and you're not picking up their phone calls, you're not showing them any properties, what do you think they're going to do? They're going to call the brokerage and say, hey, this person, I have signed this agreement, have not shown me any properties, and I want to terminate my agreement. So we would need to do that. Okay, you need to be on your A game. You're going to be competing with other agents, so you need to be on your A game. So number 2 here is your broker fee. How much are you going to charge them? Is it a flat fee? Is it a percentage? Just as we mentioned, you need to keep it competitive and see how much you're going to charge them. Okay. Number 3 is your length of an agreement. Okay, so how long is this agreement? You want to keep it as short as possible, right? Because you're going to be competing. Obviously, as an agent, you might say, hey, I do contracts or agreements for 90 days. I don't want to do less than 90 days because I feel like it's going to take us to find the property, the right property. It might take us 30 to 60 days to find that right property, right? To go under contract. So I think 90 days might be the norm, but it's all negotiable. So you're going to be working with your clients and telling them, hey, let's do this for 30 days, 45 days, 90 days, whatever you guys want. Okay. And what type of property are you looking for? I believe Sheetal, we were talking about this. One of his client was saying initially that, hey, show me properties in South Ocean Park, in Jamaica, Queens here. I don't want to go too far. And then all of a sudden, he wants to see in Hicksville. I was like, God damn, you don't want to go to, Valley Stream or Elmont, Franklin Square, 1520. You really want to go, 45 minutes into Hicksville from here. So the point here is that you want to put it in the property description counties. Hey, this person is looking in Queens and he's looking in Nassau, right? You don't want to put it too vague. You don't want to put, hey, whole New York. That's too much. Right? That's too vague. You want to, and you don't want to put South Ozone Park. You don't want to put zip code. You probably want to put in counties. I think that might be your best bet. But again, you put down what do you feel like is right. Okay? How many bedrooms are they looking for? What's the minimum bathroom that they're looking for? What is their price range? Right? You want to have some price range in there. So maybe $500,000 to $600,000, right? Or $1 million, whatever the price range might be. If there's any financing terms, what the possession is going to be? Are they going to be living there or not? Right? Is it investment or is it primary residence? Any important requirements that they have. Okay? Agency disclosures. We already know that. What's your buyer's responsibility and your potential of dual agency? Okay? Again, we can have dual agency, guys, but just got to make sure we are disclosing that. So number 8, number 9, all of them that you see here is protecting your buyers and what their responsibilities are. That you can see number 12 here, very similar to what we were talking about earlier, your audio and video recording. Buyer is advised that some sellers use audio or video surveillance to monitor their conversation. So buyer should not have any conversation in the property, so you don't want the seller to overhear you. Okay, any potential disputes, you can go through that, and you're going to have your buyer sign and you going to sign. Okay, this is going to be a legal binding. Again, you guys can take them to court if they find a property without you. Okay, and you are aware of that. So just like how the listing agent is, they're relying on their exclusive right to sell, you're relying on exclusive right to represent this form here. Questions, guys? Okay. So I highly recommend that we all go through these disclosures in your spare time, right? And see if you need me to explain any of the terms, anything in there that you don't understand. But one of the new requirements for these forms was that so every seller can read it and understand it on their own. So they try to make it very neat and clean. Before, everything was mumbo jumbo, small font. We can really barely understand it, right? Because the font was so small. Everything is changing. We want to make sure that, hey, buyers understand what they're getting into, and the sellers understand what they're getting into, right? The sellers are benefiting in this situation because they don't have to pay more commission. They're paying less. The buyers have two problems. They have to pay commission and they have to work with only one agent. So if that agent is not performing, they have the right to cancel that agreement. So you want to make sure you are disclosing all that information with your client. Okay. We did add another form in here. If you're the listing agent and your client or the buyer is doing a mortgage with us, we also need this disclosure signed. But those are rare cases. We added that link in there too. Excuse me. So all those forms, guys, I highly recommend you guys go through this. And the last one that we're going to go through is your right to rent, exclusive right to rent. So again, this form is very straightforward. This is when you're representing them as a listing agent for the landlord. You're representing the landlord and you want to list their property on the market. This is the form that you have to go with. Very similar to right to sell, but this is because it's to rent. This is the form there. Okay. It's also 6 pages. We don't have time to go through this today. Next meeting is going to be through these disclosures in depth. We're going to actually fill it out together. But today's meeting, because we just added these, I wanted to go give you guys an overview of these 3 things. So for the seller, we have right to sell. For the buyers, exclusive right to represent. And for the landlords, exclusive right to rent. All 3 forms have been changed, have been upgraded. We want to make sure that we can understand it so we can explain that to our clients. Okay. All right, guys. So you can find all those forms on ljagent.com under forms. If you guys need the password for realtor tools or our loan officer tools, right? Just ask us. Those passwords are changing from time to time. For any reason you're getting an error message, just ask us so we can provide that to you. Okay? When you're signing, have a simple rule, guys. Hey, I did a presentation with you, right? You're bringing them to the office. You're doing a presentation together. Hey, this is who's involved in the transaction. These are the steps that we're going to take you to the closing table. This is how I'm going to protect you from your bank appraisal contingency, your home inspection. These are going to be your loan options through the loan officer. You're going to go through all of that. You're going to spend maybe 20, 30 minutes with them. After you gave them an overview and you ask them, hey, do you have any questions? If not, let's sign these documents and let's start the showings. I can't start showing you unless we have these disclosures signed. The right to represent, your agency disclosure, and anti-discrimination all should be signed on the same day. So that means your compliance-wise, you're done. Your next step is to add them to KV Core and start showing them properties. Okay? Guys, we have 2 new properties on the market. One is by Paul, listed for about $1.9 million, 6 family. It's 12 bedrooms, 6 baths, really neat and clean property right by Richmond Hill here. So if you have any client, you can show them this and he can send you guys the expense report, the rent roll and everything like that. Another property, this might be our highest listed property ever, $7.5 million by AP here. Again, yes, $7.5 million. It's a 9 family, 9 beds, 9 baths. Okay. So if you have any clients, please reach out to AP for that. Okay. Again, guys, we have a few minutes left. If you really want to succeed in real estate, we really want you to focus on your clients. How many leads you have? How many leads are you currently working with? How many people are you actually following up on a regular basis? Do you have at least 3 to 5 names in your head? Hey, these are my solid clients and these are the people that I'm going to be working with and going under contract in the next 30 to 60 days. If you don't have 3 to 5 people in your head, that means you're not going to be going under contract. Okay, so we want to make sure that you are paying attention to the inventory, right? In KV Core, hey, this is new on the market. These are my clients. Let me send them properties as soon as possible. I'm competing with Zillow, Realtor.com, all the other websites. So why not this client gets my message before anybody else's? That's how you follow up. Okay. Last week we did have our agent Sunil took 2 different loan officers, one on Saturday, one on Sunday, to host the open house. So if you have a listing, you want our loan officer to be there with you at your next open house, just ask us and we'll arrange one of the loan officers to be there with you. Okay, that will do it from my end, guys. Any questions, concerns, anything in your mind? All right, guys, that will do it. Thank you so much for joining. Changes are coming. So August 8th, next Thursday, will be the date where we will not see any commission on MLS. So I hope you guys are ready. You guys take care, all right? Take care, guys.